Good evening, and welcome to the third in my series, the Griselda Tales, in which I do a complete read through of the Complete Griselda by Oliver Dickinson. I'd like to thank people who have taken the time to watch previous tales that I've posted so far. And in response to one of those, I just need to do this and this. You know who you are, and I hope that's enough hands for you. Okay? Right. So yes, I have had some feedback. I hope I'll get some more, and with any luck, some of you are reading along to these stories, and possibly will add your comments below. The book is available in PDF. I'm afraid it isn't available in print, and the last copy I saw in print was going for £90. It's a good book. Whether it's worth £90 is really up to you. But anyway, this is the third story, which is Shamus Gets a Case, and it appeared in White Dwarf issue. Let's just check. Here we go. White Dwarf number 42, which was published in 1983. And this is more or less when I came in. The early 40s were when I started reading White Dwarf properly. When I would have been about 15, really, when it was basically available in the newsagents by then. Anyway, that's by the by, a long time ago, as is this from where this story comes. So, without further ado, Shamus Gets a Case. It is really quite surprising how many persons there are in Pavis who wish to have a reputation for being tough. Of course, there is some advantage to having a reputation for being tough, such as that other persons will treat you with respect, and listen to you when you wish to gab, and maybe buy you drinks, and this is all very good for the old pride. But getting such a reputation is likely to involve a considerable amount of risk. Some persons run risks because they have to, such as soldiers, or members of tough cults, or persons who aim to make themselves rich by means that are not legitimate. And if these do well, they tend to accumulate a reputation for being tough without making any special effort. Then, of course, there are adventurers, who in my view are crazy. One and all, because they seem to enjoy taking risks. And these two, if they survive, are likely to get a reputation for being tough. There is no other good way to do it, though plenty of persons think they know one. Such persons hang weapons all over themselves and go around talking tough and acting tough, and they clearly hope to impress everyone else into believing that they are tough. But sooner or later, someone will refuse to be impressed, and then such persons generally wind up on the wrong end of something painful. So this is not reckoned to be a smart way to behave in Pavis, where there are so many persons who actually are tough, even if they do not always look it. You'll be pleased to know I have another cup of tea. Now among those who have this reputation, or are trying to get it, are many dolls. And while you may figure this is no way for a doll to behave, and such dolls may have no other opportunities in life, this is no means the case. For although they include big hefty dolls, such as may seem natural mates to cave trolls, many of them are fairly easy on the eye, and it's hard to understand why they will bother with adventuring, or belonging to some cult which sends them out on tough assignments, when they can have a home, and a husband, and little children running about, and all this and that. But this is a subject on which few of them are ready to be questioned. In fact, the chances are they will bust you one in the snoot if you suggest that this is not a traditional way of life for good-looking dolls. And as I do not care to be busted in the snoot, I never find out why they do it. Indeed, I long ago give up wondering about it, as I have plenty more important things to figure out, such as who will win the next Trollball game. But many guys are fascinated by tough dolls, and find them very romantic, though personally I prefer my romance without the sharp stuff around. But this does not seem to bother such guys, and plenty will do some pitching on these dolls, and as long as they do not mention husbands and children and such like, they may do all right, for tough dolls are also interested in romance now and then. Far and away the most successful of such guys is one by the name of Sweet Talking Shamus. But then he has a lot going for him. He is tall and well built, and has blue eyes and curly black hair, and shiny white teeth that he is always flashing. In fact, he is as handsome as any guy has a right to be, and as you will guess from his name, he has a great line in talk, though his talk sometimes sounds a bit funny, as he comes from far away from Pavis. He's always to be seen in the company of some tough doll, and while it may not be true, some malicious characters insist that he is never sincere in what he says to them, but makes his living this way, it is certainly true that they are dolls who are successful in their chosen career, and have a fair bit of dough, and always they are staking him to meals and drinks and sharing their accommodation with him. Indeed, if they do not do this, it is hard to see how Shamus will make out, as he is generally broke. But he's well liked by many, and quite handy with his fists. So few will badmouth him, and it's certainly the tough dolls never seem to complain that they are not getting value for money. One time Shamus' current doll takes off, as his dolls are apt to do, to go on a mission or adventuring or something, and what does he do but take it into his head to make a play for Griselda? There is some criticism of Shamus for this, not for his taste, since Griselda is certainly a looker, but for his sense. For while Griselda loosen up somewhat after she gets through avenging her brother, and can be good company when she's in the mood, most guys continue to treat her with some reserve, because her reputation for being tough and her way of looking at people are apt to make the average guy nervous. And moreover, nobody can figure out what she will do next and what her angle is. Furthermore, Wolfhead is believed to think very highly of her, and nobody but a rank sucker will think of cutting in on Wolfhead. But Shamus goes right ahead, and Wolfhead does not seem to object to his presence around Griselda, so the odds on his getting somewhere shorten somewhat, but not by so very much at that, because Griselda does not seem to take much notice of him, except to include him in a round of drinks now and then. Now Shamus is by no means accustomed to such treatment, but he is no quitter, and so he hangs in there and steps up the pressure. He gets to where Griselda will talk to him, and smile at him, and even let him kiss her hand every once in a while, but she makes it plain that she takes it all in fun. Well, if I'm Shamus, I will drop the whole thing and mark it up to experience, but he does not do this. Instead, he becomes really stuck on Griselda, and begins to look pale and go off his feed and lose sleep and all that. In fact, he gets so stuck in her that it becomes very boring, for he can scarcely talk of anything else, and his talk is by no means interesting, but very repetitive, being concerned with what a fine doll Griselda is, and how he cannot live without her, and so forth. At this time, there's so much speculation about Griselda in Pavis, and you can hear all kinds of stories about her past. But Shamus will take violent exception to anything that he considers critical of her. And since anything will cause some holy person just to raise an eyebrow in mild reproof will be considered critical by Shamus, this covers just about anything you can say about Griselda. It gets to where no one dares to mention her name without looking around for Shamus, and it is all very tedious. Now I will say this for Griselda, that she shows no sign of encouraging him. In fact, she starts trying to play the chill for him, but he's very difficult to shake off, and she seldom seems to manage to get away for long. I come upon her one day in a little dive where I never see her before, because the liquor in there is the next best thing to a low-potency acid. And I only go there myself because therein is my cousin, and will give me credit when my resources are low. She looks up very fast when I come in, but she seems to relax when she sees it is only me, and offers me a drink. Naturally, I will not refuse such an offer, even if it is my cousin's booze, and it turns out to be quite drinkable. As when Griselda comes in, he dares not offer his usual poison, but gets out some stuff I never know he has. It seems that Griselda is not on her first drink, or even her second, but she just sits there looking at nothing, and I do not speak, and she may not wish to be disturbed. Finally, she turns to me and says, "You know this guy Shamus?" And I admit I do, somewhat. "Well, maybe you can tell me what ails him," she says. "I know his game. I see that type before. Can you not see that I'm not interested? I'm beginning to get very sick of it. I do not want him to have to kill the guy. Only what does it take to shake him off?" "Well, Griselda," I say, "it is plain that you do not perceive that he has a bad case of love for you, and such persons may not notice or care that the object of their affections is not interested. Or so I hear." At this, she looks at me very piercingly. "This is straight stuff," she says. "He really has a case?" I nod, and she seems to slump. "That is even worse. It'll be 7 years bad luck if I even injure him. Well, it's no use asking you what to do, because I hear you are such a guy as will not get heated up over a doll if you are freezing to death. If only Shamus is like that. I ignore this crack and decide to take a chance and offer advice. For Griselda is certainly a doll that you were rather friendly towards you than not. What I do not see, I say politely, Griselda, is that why you cannot think of some way of frightening him off without doing any damage. I also hear that dolls are good at getting rid of guys they do not want, even if they're not as smart as you. At this, I get the old look again for a moment, and then a glint comes into her eye, and she claps me on the back just as I'm taking a drink to relieve the tension. While I'm joking, she says, "Good thinking. Here, keep the flask." And she's off out the door before I can say thanks. I'm not there when it happens, but it seems the same night Griselda announced that she needs some action, and suggests to Shamus that he accompany her. Those who view the same say that Shamus is out of his seat so fast he nearly collides with her and starts the action sooner than anticipated. But he has himself under control, though he's closer to her than a dead heat as they go out. Nothing is seen of them for the rest of the night. Evening. And along towards midnight, one and all Lalinas are speculating freely, when in comes Shamus. He's walking very slow, and seems a little mussed up here and there, and his expression is very strange to behold, indeed. He gets to a table, and he sits down as if his legs will not hold up any longer, and we all gather round with great interest and offer him a drink, which he accepts. After a pull, he looks up at us and says, hoarsely, Do you know what I'm going to tell you?" Which is the way he starts half his talk. And personally, I think it's a dumb thing to say, because how will we know what before he tells us? But we're all used to it, and just say no. "That Griselda is the most extraordinary woman," he goes on. And then it seems like he cannot get out another word, but he just sits there shaking his head. "Is she hot stuff?" Shamus, someone asks. And his face goes even stranger. He says, "Listen, I will tell you," which is another bit of his odd talk, and we listen. "When we go out," he begins, "I ask Griselda if she's aiming to take in some high-class spot, but she says she's not really dressed for it, and besides, she wants something a bit livelier. And before I know it, she is leading me down into the really rough end of town. I figure it best to go along with her on this, although this is not an area where I will look for enjoyment myself, and I become slightly nervous when I see that she's heading for Rowdy Joe Lowe's, because it is well known that you can lose your life almost any night in Rowdy Joe Lowe's, and the company is by no means select. In fact, I ask Griselda if she really wishes to go there, and she looks at me in great surprise, and asks me why not. I say it is a joint that's considered a little rough, and she just smiles and says, 'Surely you're not scared?' Naturally, I am not scared, simply cautious, but I can see that she'll not believe me if I say so. So in we go. There is a big dirty guy leaning against one side of the door, who at first shows no inclination to move aside and give us room to get by easily. But when we are close, he does a double take, and then steps back aside very fast, and gives Griselda a big smile, and she marches straight in. When we get in, I feel even more uneasy, for everyone looks up at us, and there are people there who I know of that I actually do not wish to meet anywhere. There are Wolf the Wog, and Carver Donan, and Snake Fang, and many other such hard cases, and I can see that this is no place for a peace-loving guy like me. I figure we will be about as welcome as a hungry dragon snail, but some nod and some smile, and one group calls to Griselda with great enthusiasm. I'm hoping she will not go, as this group has the worst-looking guys of the lot, but she gives them a big hello and walks straight over, so I have to tag along. I do not care for the way they look at me, and I feel very thankful that after Griselda introduces me, they ignore me completely. Snake Fang heads this group, and they are playing Mumblety Peg, which is a game I learn he is very fond of. It is this game where you spread your fingers out on a table and jump a knife point to and fro between them faster and faster, and you must do it without touching a finger even slightly, or you're out. It is said that sometimes Snake Fang puts a little poison on the knife point to make it more interesting, but it is all in fun. Money is being wagered on this game, and nothing will do Griselda but she must join in, though she does inspect the knife first, which everyone finds very amusing. At first, I can scarcely drink for fear she will injure one of her pretty little fingers, but she never misses, and wins a few lunas. Though some are faster than she is, and I begin to relax when Snakefang suggests I try the game. I explain that I am no hand with a knife, and Griselda looks at me very disappointed, and someone is heard to mutter that I'm yellow, more like. She fires up at this, and before I can say anything, and says, of course I'm not yellow, and to prove it, she will play Mum to Peg between my fingers and make the fastest time yet. No one, though I never let her do this before. Well, naturally I have to agree to this. In fact, I'm not given any choice. And this proposition attracts more interest, and everyone gathers round. She gets a few bets in, and then she really goes to work until I will not believe I have a drop of sweat left, and I get no pleasure out of holding my hand in place at all. But finally she stops, without even scratching me, and there is much cheering, and everyone pays off. And Snakefang says I'm a game guy, all right, and have another drink. Griselda says just one, as we must be going on, and I'm surely glad to hear that. They say come back soon when we leave. Griselda says she will, but I say to myself, I will not be along, for I commence to wonder if she is not too high-spirited for me. I hope that we'll go now back uptown. But Griselda says she must visit her Trollkin pals, because she does not see them in a long time. I say something about it being late, but she says nonsense. It is early for trolls. And I'm a fine one for to be thinking of running out on her, so I have to stay. When we get there, I almost wish I were back in Rowdy Joe Lowe's, for almost everyone there is Trollkin, except the guy who runs it, and I can barely see to drink my liquor, though maybe this is just as well, as I'm probably better off not knowing what dye's in it. But Griselda seems perfectly happy with the joint, and it is plain she's very popular among the Trollkin. And soon everyone is telling dark troll jokes, and one and all are having a good time except me, for though she translates a joke for me every now and then, I do not find them so very funny. But just as she is telling a really long and complicated sounding joke, who walk into the joint but two big dark trolls? At this point, Shaman pauses to refresh himself, and it is clear that the memory is by no means pleasant. So, does she stop at once? She does not, but carries on in a loud voice, which makes quite sure that she can be heard, as everyone else quiets down. And when she reaches the punch line, she laughs like anything. No, none of the rest do. And most are edging away from her. Well, the dark trolls look all burned up at the joke, and they start for us. I'm swearing to myself that if I get out of this alive, I will never associate with anyone but healers. But Griselda just leans back against the bar, with that little sword that she carries everywhere along one thigh, and smiles at the trolls. It stops one of them in the tracks, and it grabs the other by the arm and says something that I think has Griselda's name in it. Does that other troll keep coming? Shamus looks round at us all, but of course we do not know, and beg him to tell us. He shakes his head. He does not, and for my money is a sound judge. He just sort of leers and says to Griselda and Pavis, Jarvis Gunn will have my head if I do anything to you. And she replies that Jarvis Gunn tells her that joke personally, and then everyone has a good laugh, including the dark trolls, and she offers them a drink. They get to chattering away and dark-towing again, and I'm edging toward the door, as I figure that I have enough of Griselda to last me a long, long time, and that I will be safer anywhere else than where she is. But she turns to me just as I think I can make a break in, and says, You're not going? Why, surely you will set up the drinks for my friends? Well, this is the last straw, and I'm out of there and halfway up the hill in nothing flat, and if I never see Griselda again, it will be soon enough. Gentlemen and ladies, he says, looking round at us very serious and pounding the table for emphasis, Griselda may be very beautiful, and she may be very brave, and she can hold her own in any company you care to mention, but, and here he begins to shout, for your health's sake, for your health's sake, stay away from her, because you do know what I'm going to tell you. She's the most dangerous woman to be around in the whole of Pavis. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I will return next time for story number 4, which is quite a well-known story, A Tasty Morsel. Hope you enjoyed that, and happy listening.